Hi guys, I'm Rob here to teach you a lesson on subtracting polynomials. It's really just practice of everything we've already been doing on simplifying expressions. Subtraction and addition, I'd rather just call it combining. Sometimes I add, sometimes I subtract, but all the time I'm combining. So the only thing that makes things harder is when I subtract a group of things, which means there's parentheses, which means I distribute. And we have to be careful. When I subtract the group, I'm subtracting every piece of the group. So that's the key, the thing to look out for. And everything else I got on here are vocab. And if I expand something, I separate it and stretch it out. Terms are separated by plus or minus signs. Coefficients are the number in front of the letter. Standard form isn't something we do too much in middle school. It's writing something in order with the high exponents first. So let's look at example 1a. Subtract the quantity or group 40 plus 9 and 30 plus 2. I am subtracting the 30 plus 2 from the 40 plus 9. So in that example, which is very elementary school, I do PEMDAS, parentheses first. Can you do 40 plus 9? Sure I can. It's 49. Can I do 30 plus 2? Sure I can. It's 32. 49, take away the 32, leaves you with 17, and we are DONE done. Now we're moving on to middle school math, which involves letters and some words. So in example B, I say subtract the quantity or group 4x plus 11 from this other group of 3x plus 5y minus 4. So it's a little harder because it has letters and it has groups of things, and you have to know which one goes first. From goes first. Please make sure you are writing this down. From goes first. So I'm going to put the 3x, the plus 5y, and the minus 4 first. And I'm going to subtract this other group, which is 4x plus 11. Now, remember, there is a number in front of that 4x plus 11 group, and that number is invisible. And there's one number that has invisibility powers, and it's 1. So I'm still going to do PEMDAS. PEMDAS says parentheses first, except inside the parentheses, I have unlike terms. I can't add 3x with 5y or negative 4. I can't add the 4x with an 11. They don't have the same letters with the same exponents. They're unlike. So we move on to the next thing of parentheses, which is distributive property. And right here, I have a parentheses with a negative 1 touching it. So I'm distributing the negative 1. Subtracting something is the same as multiplying it by a negative 1. Okay, so I'm now going to lightly shade over this because I'm going to ignore that because I rewrote the negative 1. I don't want to be confused by seeing it there twice. So negative 1 times 4x is a negative 4x. If you need help with that, you put negative 1 times 4 in your calculator. You are never putting that x in your calculator. Don't you dare. And then negative 1 times 11 will make a negative 11. Okie dokies. So I'm going to rewrite what I have in this question before I move on. I'm going to choose a different color too. Okay. So I'm going to copy this first one because I didn't do anything to it. When you don't do stuff in math, you just copy it. So I copied that. And now I'm going to copy what I changed the next part to. I changed it to a negative 4x and a negative 11. And I'm going to teach you something new. Instead of organizing with a circle or a box or a triangle, you could do organization a different way and just line up the like terms. So negative 4x is like which term? It's like this one, the 3x. So I'm going to line them up. And the negative 11 is a constant. It's constantly negative 11. It never changes. It never varies. It doesn't have a variable. So the negative 11 is a constant, and so is the negative 4. So that's why I've lined them up. Now, sometimes students don't know what to put in the calculator. So I always like to say these things out loud. So in the first row, I'm adding, I see a negative 4 and I see a negative 11, which makes negative 15. Okay, so you could put it in the calculator like that, or you could put it in the calculator negative 4 minus 11. I recommend you do -4 plus a -11. The 5y has nothing added to it, so it gets copied. When you can't do something, you copy it. And you can do 3 minus 4 in the calculator or 3 plus a -4. Either way, the answer is a -1x. Okie dokies. And that is the answer. -1x, positive plus 5y, minus 15. Or -x plus 5y plus a -15. They all work. Subtraction is adding the opposite. So I can put add a -15 or minus a regular 15 because subtraction is adding the opposite. They are the same. And 1 has invisibility power. So if I didn't want to write 1, I don't have to. Okay? You got to remember that. It's important because if I have a multiple choice question, you have to understand what the other equivalent answers might look like. You might have an answer, but the multiple choice one looks different. You have to realize that when they're equivalent, they equal the same thing anyway. Okay, we're going to find the sum. Super important that you know that means add. Back in the day when we had the midterm, I would have a question on there that said sum, and lots of people would multiply. So please, you got to know your vocab. Sum means add. Vertical means up and down. So we're going to do it the way I just did the last one. We're going to organize by lining things up. And because I don't feel like doing a ton of writing, I'm not going to rewrite the first one because it's not getting changed. There's nothing multiplied here, so it's the same. There's no subtraction here, so I don't have to do that extra distributing work. So I'm just going to write this 2a underneath the other term that has an a. I'm going to write this. Remember, subtraction's and the opposite, so let's do that so we don't forget that negative sign on the paper when I go to move. I don't want to forget stuff. So it's a -4b, so that's going to go underneath the other b. And, oh, I see a subtraction here. Let me change that to add in the oppo. I see 13 cats. I'm going to put that under the -6 cats. So if I had 6 cats taken away and I add 13 more cats, I now have, what is that, 7? Yeah, that's 7. Correct me if I'm wrong. If there are 3 bats and you take away 4 bats, then you owe me a bat. Maybe we're talking about softball bats. And then 5 apples and 2 apples makes 7 apples. So I can have 7 apples, take away 1 bat plus 7 cats, or 7 apples plus a -1 bat. It doesn't matter because subtraction is the same as adding the opposite. So whichever way I look at it. Not to mention, I don't have to write it ABC order. I could put the C first if I wanted to. I could put 7C minus 1B. I don't have to write the 1 if I don't want to. And add the 7A. I can switch the order for addition because addition is commutative. Subtraction's not commutative. So if I was going to put this in a different order, I'd want to put the add an opposite back there so I don't mess it up. Again, I tell you this because there will be multiple choice questions and maybe the variables won't be in the same order as the way you did it, but you still did your work right. So you want to be able to find your equivalent answer. Let's do difference. Difference means subtract, and they make that clear by doing it for you. And we're going to do it vertically, but there's extra steps when you have to subtract a group of things. So there's a number here. It is 1. That number is touching the parentheses, so it will also touch the box. And then since I rewrote it, I'm going to scribble it out so I don't have to look at it anymore. -1 times 5x is -5. Write the x yourself. -1 times 2 is a -2. So just to go over that one more time, I subtracted this group of 5x plus 2. And subtraction is adding the opposite. So I'm going to go over this one more time. I'm going to rewrite the first group that never got changed or multiplied by anything. and I'm going to add the negative 5x. I put the x's together because they're like terms. I'm going to add the negative 2, and that's a constant, so I put it in the column with the other constants. So remember, subtraction's adding the opposite. If I subtract a 5x plus 2, I'm adding the opposite of a 5x, which is a negative 5x, and I'm adding the opposite of a 2, which is a negative 2. Okay, I have trouble because I don't pick up my pen, so sometimes the stuff gets scribbly. So I can put in the calculator negative 4 minus 2 or negative 4 plus a negative 2. Tell me the answer. Yeah, it's negative 6. 3y doesn't get added to anything, so it gets copied. And if 2x take away 5x, or 2 plus a negative 5 is a negative 3x. Now stare at that and tell me what's missing. What's wrong? Okay, if you got to put what kind of 3 this is, because you can't have that blank space there. It changes the answer completely. And you can say that's negative 3x plus 3y minus 6, or you could say that's negative 3x plus 3y and a negative 6. They are equivalent. I can put the negative 6 first, and then the negative 3x, and then the positive 3y. I can change the order of addition because it is commutative. Okay, let's try a word problem. A steak, I always like to say a steak because of this comedian, the comedian that has the puppets. What's his name? I don't know, but he has a jalapeno on his steak. It's kind of funny. So I always say a steak is X meters long. A string is 4 times as long as a steak. Express the length of the string in terms of X. And when students hear that, they're like, yo, whoa, that sounds hard. It's a lot of talking. We don't need to talk so much. So I want string. It says string is. So I'm going to write that. String. Wow, that looks awful. This computer hates me today. So I'm going to use my typing instead and see if that works out better. Click. String is. Is in math means equals. 4 times, I know what that looks like, 4 times as long as the steak. But the steak is called X. So there it is. And that's what that means. This is what a string is in terms of X. This is what a string is with an X written in it. If the total length of the string and the stick is 15 meters, how long is the string? So I'm going to write. This is the part where a lot of students like to just tell me the answer. But I want you to type what you heard in the question first. In the question, I heard total. So total means addition. Total for what? Let's see. The total of the string. The string was for X. And was already plus sign. The steak was called X. Is, which means equals 15. Now, how long is the string? So that means string was 4x, so that is my question. Okie dokies. We haven't really done equations yet, but I have a feeling you guys can do this anyway. Before you look at that equals 15, tell me, what's 4x plus x? Be careful. Because it's like, remember, there's an invisible 1 there, and if you don't write it down, a lot of times people don't tell me the right answer, which is 5x. Now, we have done a lot of questions where we did proportions, and we did some algebra with proportions. So this is totally doable by you, even though I haven't taught a whole bunch of algebra yet. Because when you do a proportion, you cross multiply, you get stuff that looks like this. And then what did I always say you do next? You divide both sides by the coefficient. I'm going to have to go back to drawing because it's hard to do this without drawing. So I'm going to divide both sides. The coefficient of x is 5, which will conveniently divide this off to get my x all alone to find that the x value is 3. The x value is 3. What is x? X is the stick. And boss man or boss woman wanted to know what's the string. So I need 4x. Well, x is 3, so I'll replace the x with a 3. I will substitute it in, and I will get the answer, and I will label the answer. Labeling is very important. Tells everybody what else is going on, and I also like to box in the answer. It makes it stick out better. Okie dokies. Let's try something else. All right, we'll try a harder one. I gotta leave some of these for you to do later. It costs Margot a processing fee of $3 to rent a storage unit plus $17 per month. Per means, think about it. And her friend Carissa wants to store a box of her belongings in Margot's storage unit and tells her she will pay her $1 toward the processing fee and $3 for every month she keeps the box in storage. We're going to write an expression in standard form, so highest to lowest exponent of how much Margot will have to pay for the storage unit if Carissa contributes. So obviously, if someone's helping you out, you're going to pay less money. Then describe how much Margot will pay if she uses a storage unit for 6 months. So there's multiple steps to this problem, so it always helps to do one thing at a time. First, we have to decide what letter we're going to use. I decided for you. I said, let's use M because what is changing in this question? So the number, I'm going to have to type it. What is changing is how many months. So we're going to let M represent the number of months. It's more specific when you write number and not just the word months. Okay. Margot has a processing fee of $3. So you have to pay people before you even put anything in the storage unit, $3. And extra, additional, plus $17 per month. So let's think it through. 1 month is $17. And then another month is another $17. So for 2 months, it would be what? 34. And then another 17 gets added. Repeated addition is multiplication. So I can write times M, or because it's a letter next to a number, I don't have to write the times sign. So this is the expression for Margot. Carissa is going to pay $1. She's not storing as much, so she's not paying as much. $1 plus $3 per month. So it looks very similar with different coefficients. Okay, how much will Margot pay with Carissa's help? So I can just copy this. Nice thing about Cami. And copy the other one, right? Oh, it didn't work. Okay, I had to type it. So I got Margot's expression. Notice how I put it in parentheses because I want to keep it together and not have it as something separate. And then I'm going to copy down Carissa's. And what am I going to do with the two numbers? Remember, she's going to pay less because somebody's helping her out. So I want to know what is the difference. Difference means subtract. Okay, dokies. So when you subtract a group, you are distributing a negative, otherwise known as adding the opposite of everything in the parentheses. So the first thing I'm going to do is copy this -1, put a box under this. There are two terms, so I'm separating into two boxes. -1 times 1 is a -1. -1 times 3m is a -3m. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this. I got 3 and 17m. I got a -1 and a -3m. I lined up the like terms. All the m's are together. All the constants are together. 17 and a negative 3, or 17 minus 3, is $14 a month. 3 take away 1 is $2 in processing fee. So now Margot has to pay this with help. She has to pay less processing fee, less dollars per month. Should make sense. If you have any questions, you can ask me about it in class. All right, I'm going to try some other problems. As you can see, I have some things crossed out. I'm going to skip some of the evaluating, and I'm going to skip some questions. If you want, you can do the other ones. It will be included in the answer key, so you can check all of your answers, and you really, really, really need to check your work. So I'm going to do, let's see. I'll do D. Now, what's touching the parentheses here in D? Remember, the only one that has invisibility power is the 1. When I multiply something by positive 1, it doesn't change anything. So I can just copy this. 3x, a negative 2, and subtraction's saying the opposite, so I'm going to write and a negative 4x. I'm going to circle the 3x and then ask myself, are there any other x's? There is. There's a negative 4x. I'm going to put 3 and negative 4 in the calculator. I'll get negative 1. I'll copy the x myself, and this negative 2 had nobody to combine with, so it gets copied. Okay? Different than this one, I have parentheses, so I'm going to draw my box. There's 2 terms. What's touching the parentheses is a negative with an invisible 1 that I will now make visible. Negative 1 times a negative 2 is a positive 2. A negative 1 times, better do this so it sticks out. A negative 4 is a positive 4x. So I've got the 3x and a positive 2 and a positive 4x. The x's still get added together, except this time they're different signs. 3 and 4 make 7x. And the 2 has nobody to get added with, so I copy it. And that's the final answer on that one. I don't have to do the circling and boxing. I can do the lining up if I wanted to. When I do addition problems with a group, it really doesn't change anything. I don't have to change any signs. But when I do subtraction, you have to add a whole bunch of oppos. So it does change things. So you always be more careful when you have a subtraction. Okay, let's see. Should I do these or should I do a different one? I'll do this one. Oh, no, wait, I crossed those off. I said, let's not do those. You don't have to do them, but I can do it. All right. PEMDA says parentheses first. Can I do a negative D with a 2? No. Can I do a D with a 3D? Yeah, I can. Cool. That's 4D. And there's a negative in front of this group, so I need to add the oppo, which is the same as multiplying by a negative 1. I'm going to ignore that because it gets distracting. Negative 1 times a negative 1 is a positive 1. Write the D yourself. A negative 1 times a 2 is a negative 2. Now remember, I don't have to do circles and boxes. I can line things up. So I have in that rectangle, I need to rewrite that 1D. And I need to rewrite that negative 2. The negative 2 has nothing to get combined with, so it gets copied. 4 dogs plus another dog is 5 dogs. So I have 5 dogs and a negative 2 for a final answer. And you can check this in the calculator. Plugging in the D is 3. So if I put this in the calculator, it would say, instead of the D, I'm going to say 3. 3 plus 3, substitute in parentheses another 3. And then I'm supposed to subtract a negative 3 plus 2. I got 13. So I'm going to check my answer. My answer was 5D minus 2. So if I put 5, substitute in a 3, I get 15. And then when I subtract 2, I get 13. So they worked out. Okay, I can go over more checking with you if you want. Just ask for help in class. So we're probably going to do some of these in class because this video is starting to feel like it's a little long. So scrolling up here, let's look at these because they don't have addition on it. If you notice this section here, -3 parentheses 8x doesn't mean add. It means multiply. And you can put that in a calculator. -3 times 8 is a -24. Just write the x yourself. I'm not going to do the evaluate right now. Okay? We're still going to do PEMDAS on C. PEMDAS have parentheses, but there's nothing to do in the parentheses. But it can be seen as distributive property. Distribute the -3 to the 8x, you get -24x, just like we did in the last question. Distribute the 6 to the 4x, and you get 24x again. And now the only thing left to do would be to add. A -24x with a positive 24x makes 0 x's, or you can just write 0 altogether. And again, I'm not going to check my work right now because I don't want it to take too long to do this homework. Anything else I want to practice? Let's practice a division. What's 25 railroads? Type, right? Where are you? 25 railroads divided into 5 railroads. Groups of 5 railroads. How many would that make? That would make 5. 25 divided by 5 is 5, and anything divided by itself divides off. Okay? So try to remember that. What's 8 xylophones divided into 2 groups? Well, that would be 4 xylophones in each group. The 8 divided by 2 is 4, and the x is still there. Okay? Get it? It's always easier when you say a name for a thing instead of a letter.
And the last set of buses, 11, 9, 4, and 5.
Okay.
Exit the building. All bus routes have been called. Anyone taking a bus this afternoon may exit now.
All right. Do your best on the rest and contact me when you need help. We'll do some more in class. Okay. See you later.